Hello everyone, welcome to Deeksha online class. Today we are going to go through a topic named Morphology in Root. Before we go into Morphology in Root, we will try and understand the entire plants. In our previous classes, we have understood diversity in plants and we have understood the importance of classifying it. Now that we have understood the classification and we also have seen different types of plants, we will try and understand its structure. The first structure what we are going to learn today is root. So, let us first understand the entire plant structure. Generally in a plant, the lower portion is the root, which is generally geotropic in nature. Geotropic means something which moves towards the earth. So, in the root, when you see, there will be a main root which we call it as primary root. From primary root, you generally can see the growth of secondary root, and from secondary root we get tertiary roots. So, this is our primary root. Next comes is secondary root. Then comes tertiary root. Phototropically on the other side grows the stem. So, this is a phototropic movement. From the stem comes out as branches. And on the branches we see leaves. Now, for the formation of branches, we know there will be auxiliary buds which will grow into a branch, and from each branch point there will again be buds which will form into leaves and probably into young flower buds and some into flowers. It is very important for us to understand this plant diagram to understand the function of root. Now, let us concentrate on the topic given today, that is root. We see that root first of all helps in anchorage. You can see this region, it is helping in anchorage. Along with anchorage, we understand that the root tips are going to absorb water and minerals for the proper functioning of the whole plant. This water is conducted through the stem into the branches and into the leaf. Finally, leaves lose out water through the process called as transpiration. Does root do only these two functions of anchorage and absorption of water and mineral salts? No, certain specialized roots modify themselves to do storage. Example, we will move on to the functions separately. So, first function, as I told, a modified first function is storage. Example, carrot. I am sure we all have seen the carrot. It generally looks like a cone. So, this is called as conical root. We also have radish, which looks something like this, and this shape is called as fusiform root. Then comes beetroot or turnip, they are more globular at the tip and then they become more tapering downwards. This is called as napiform root. In certain cases, roots propagate vegetatively. So, the next modified function is vegetative propagation. I am sure you all have heard and seen the plant dahlia, which gives big flowers. Their roots come in clusters like this in tubers. So, this is the stem above and the root comes like this in clusters. These clustered root, each one of them, if we separate and grow, it grows into a young new plant. This is an example of vegetative propagation. There is also roots which help for mechanical support. Under this case, we have two different types of root. First type is prop root. You have seen banyan tree. It grows wide in nature, very wide, and from the branches comes down is certain prop roots which reaches up till the ground and gives support to the plant. There is also second type of mechanical support root called as stilt root, seen in case of sugarcane and also in case of maize. Pandanus is another plant where we can see this kind of root. So, I will write here prop root, banyan. So, how does stilt root comes? Now, assuming this is a sugarcane and it has nodes and internodes, and from the lower nodes you can see a lot of roots growing, and this happens only from lower roots. This is called as stilt root, which is held for mechanical support. Certain roots become green in color and they turn photosynthetic. This is seen in case of trapa. The common name is water chestnut. We also see this kind of photosynthetic root in case of Tinospora. In here we see the roots performing the function of photosynthesis. Certain roots help in climbing. There is a plant by named Pothos armamatus. I will give you the common name, you do not have to worry too much with the biological name. It is money plant. You will see the roots are hard, but it helps in climbing. Similarly, there are several functions which we could discuss. Going to say that it is important for us to understand the structure and everything whatever we can get about roots. So, where is the root present? Root is present in the subterranean region or the underground region. What does it do? It does vascularization. It is a primary organ of vascular plants, very important. If there is a vascular plant, there is necessity for the root to pass the water to the leaf. What else the root does? It does anchorage and absorption. So, moving on, we see various types of roots. Now, some time back I specified that roots are generally geotropic in nature. Can we see certain exceptional forms of roots? One exceptional form of root is seen in case of mangroves. Mangroves are those plants which grows in salt water, hence it is called as halophyte. hollow, saltwater plants. Example, Avicennia and Rhizophora. This plant grows against the soil. So, this is my soil layer. In this case, certain roots grow phototropically. And these roots have small pores within it. These pores are called as lenticels. These lenticels help in respiration, and hence these roots are called as pneumatophores or respiratory root. Now, pneumatic is the part associated to respiration. Force holds. So, it is a respiratory root. Since in salt water you do not find much of dissolved oxygen, these roots absorb oxygen from the air. Other than this, we also see similar type of anti-geotropic roots in case of cycas. In cycas we have coralloid roots. Coralloid roots, the word comes from coral, colored. If we see these roots, they are in cluster formations like this, and these clusters are somewhat reddish in color, because of which the name coralloid root. Why did this happen? This happened because inside the root there is symbiotic cyanobacteria living. What is symbiotic? Symbiotic is a special kind of relationship or interaction between two organisms, both are helping each other. So, symbiotic cyanobacteria. So, here the cyanobacteria helps in fixation of nitrogen. In return, it gets shelter from the plant. So, plant provides shelter to the cyanobacteria, it gives nutrition to the cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria in turn helps in fixing nitrogen for the plants. Now, let us see these two roots in. So, the first thing what we understand is roots are generally positive to geotropic condition, but as I told, there is exception. Apogeotropic coralloid root seen in cycas. Look at this diagram. Can you see a clustered thing? What do you mean by apogeotropic? It is different from geotropic, that is the meaning of it. It is not 100% geotropic. Or negatively geotropic, 100% we see in case of pneumatophores, mangroves. So, these two examples of cycas, coralloid roots, and mangroves, pneumatophores are apogeotropic type of roots. You have another set of roots, what we call it as diageotropic. So, this is the example from here. If you see this root, it is growing horizontal to the main stem and the root. So, if a root or if anything grows in 90 degrees to the actual part, it is called as diageotropic. Now, what is the most significant feature to understand what is a root and what is a stem? Now, assuming we all would have heard in our classes that sweet potato is a root, whereas a potato is a stem. Have we ever thought the difference? On what basis do we speak this? Potatoes generally have nodes and internodes, but on the other hand, sweet potato do not have no nodes, no internodes. So, in other words, we understand that Nodes and internode is a feature of stem, and absence of them is a feature of root. So, you can see roots are without nodes and internodes, without apical and terminal or axillary buds. If nodes are there, then buds will come. If nodes are not there, then buds also won't come. But again, there is a small exception to it. Now, assimilatory root, it is also called as photosynthetic root, is seen in case of Ctenospora and Trappa. So, here is our example of Ctenospora. This can you see here? This is the root. Photosynthetic root are also called as assimilatory root of Ctenospora. This is water chestnut, and look at these roots, completely green in color because they are photosynthetic in nature. Moving on, let us see how a root develops. Now, this is a seed. On germination, the seed produces radicle and plumule. And what is this region? This is the hilum region through which it is coming out. So, the plumule part forms the shoot, radical part forms the root. The tip or the uppermost portion of the plumule forms the coleoptile. The lowermost part of the radicle is called as coleorhiza. Rhiza means root. This will further have another covering called as root cap in case of terrestrial plants, and it is called as root pocket in case of aquatic plants. So, now this is the main part, what is radicle, which forms the future root. Now, let us understand how it happens. Now, again I repeat, this is my stem, seed, this forms into the radicle. Gradually, radicle converts into root. This forms, as I told, that is the radicle which will further form into primary root. From the primary root comes out is secondary root. From the secondary root, you can see, then comes the tertiary root. These are the most important parts, as from there the root hair develop. The root hair will be helping in absorption of water. Now, let us see each of these parts again. Root develop from radicle of embryo or seed are normal roots which produce tap root system. In case of dicot, it produces fibrous root system in case of monocots. Now, before I move into monocot, I will just make you understand once more how the root is developing. So, here is our seed. This is the seed. Then the seed starts germinating. The germinated seeds are producing root here. These roots gradually grow deeper and deeper, forming secondary and tertiary root. But assume in the process this primary root dies, the radical itself dies. What happens? At that time, all the root starts developing from the base of the stem. I repeat my point. In the process of development, if the primary root is dying out, then obviously the secondary and tertiary root have to grow from the base of the stem, which will make the root system appear bushy. This is called as fibrous root system. So, what do we understand? That fibrous root system is seen in monocot plant because there is no primary radical. The primary radical dies out. In the beginning, all roots form as taproot. Gradually, taproots exist only in dicots. In case of monocot, the main primary stem or the primary radical dies. Moving on, we see the two major differentiation between roots or the two differentiating characteristic of a dicot and a monocot plant. Let us observe the root. So, this is the first primary root what we can see. From the primary root grows are the secondary roots. From the secondary root grow out is tertiary root. Very important for us to understand these. This becomes taproot. But look at this point. Where is the primary root? There is no primary root, because of which all the secondary roots have started growing from a single point, that is base of the stem, and forms into a fibrous root system. So, we read it in taproot system. Primary root gives rise to many secondary and tertiary roots. In fibrous root system, fibers like roots develop from the base of the stem. This is very important. Why does this happen? Because the primary root is short-lived. Short-lived, the word is ephemeral. Something which quickly dies off is called as ephemeral. Understanding a different type of root from taproot and fibrous root. If a root is developing from any other part other than radical, it is called adventitious roots. So, you look at this picture first. This is a sweet potato. Now, if you see, the sweet potato is generally grown from the base of the stem. So, it is a adventitious root because it is growing from the base of the stem. Observe these prop roots of banyan. It is growing from the branches of the stem and not from the primary root system. Observe the adventitious roots in case of bryophyllum. It is growing from the leaf. In case of ginger, it is growing from the rhizome, which is a part of the stem. So, we understand roots developing from any other part of the plant other than the stem, or rather other than the primary roots, such as stem, leaves and so on, are called as adventitious root system. So, that is the part. We move on understanding the complete structure of root. The structure of root we generally read from bottom to the top region. So, at the base of the root there is presence of root cap. Now, again I repeat, root cap is a nature for terrestrial plants, whereas root pocket is present in case of aquatic plants. Why? Basically, root caps is meant for protection. Protection against the soil particles while growing. but in case of aquatic plant there is no friction to be supported. So, root pockets are present. So, as I told, the base of the root is root pocket or the stem. Above that region is the region of meristematic tissue. Region of meristematic tissue. In this region, maximum activity happens. Above this region comes is the region of elongation. Here no other cell division occurs, but cell enlarges by size. Above this region is the region of maturation. From here you can see root hairs are developing. These root hairs are the part which is going to absorb water. So, in other words, shall I say that region of maturation helps in absorption of water. Understanding root cap in more detail. Now, the first and foremost part of the root, as I have already signified, is root cap. It is going to protect the delicate meristem part. How? By certain secretions of mucilage from the Golgi bodies. This lubricates and helps in recovery of wear and tear. Now, in this right picture, you can see this is the region of root cap. Can you see here that this region is a little broken, repaired? Now, this is the region which will be repaired by the secretions of Golgi bodies, so that this region can further reach to the ground. How? Because the root cap has a composition which is rich in starch grain. Understand one thing, the entire organisms depends on only 4 substances: carbohydrates, proteins, lipids and nucleic acids. So, how is the root cap made up of? Carbohydrate. Which one? Starch grains. Now, this root, what picture is here, is of a plant named Pandanus. Now, this is Pandanus. Pandanus I have spoken in terms of stilt root, which helps in mechanical support and grows from the lower nodes. Now, these stilt roots are reaching the soil, but if you are looking at this root cap, it is a little different when compared to all other root caps in general. It is more bright and conspicuous. This part, if you see, the reason is because there is presence of multiple root caps. There is not one root cap, but many root caps. Many root caps come together to form one multiple root cap in case of Pandanus fascicularis. Whereas we see in case of hydrophytes, there is presence of root pocket. Now, which kind of hydrophytes? Here it is very important for us to know. It is free floating hydrophytes. Now, what do you mean by this? Understand it very clearly that hydrophytes are of 3 different types. Assuming this is a pond or a lake, one set of hydrophytes just float in the surface like this. Another set of hydrophytes have leaf in the tip, but their root is in the ground. And another set is a submerged. This is a submerged plant. This is a plant which has floating leaf but submerged root. In these both the cases, you will see root pocket because it comes in contact with the soil. But in this case, it is a free floating plant. It doesn't have any issues with soil. In such a case, we see root pocket. So, I hope you are clear with this root pocket part of it. Now, we are moving on to the next part, zone of elongation. Zone of elongation is right above the region of zone of meristematic activity. It is approximately about 5 to 10 millimeter in length. It comprises of parenchymatous cells. Why? Very important that parenchymatous cells are permanent, but it is a very simple form of cells. So, it helps in the formation of root hair from the epiblemma. Now, what is epiblemma? Epidermis is the terminology what we use in case of stem. In case of root, we tell it epiblemma. Now, assuming this is a cross section of root, the outermost layer of the cell or of the root is called as epiblemma. Now, this is the outermost layer. And this outermost layer forms the root hair. Here one more point you must remember, that root hair is always unicellular. This is also another distinction. If you happen to see a hair in the stem, it is called as trichome, but it is multicellular. But root hair are unicellular, formed from epiblemma. What is epiblemma? Epidermis, the outermost layer of the root. Now, this is of high absorption activity of water and minerals. Very important. This is the main importance of root hair. Then we are moving into the last region called as zone of maturation. This shows secondary growth. Now, because it is showing secondary growth, it is obvious that there will be presence of secondary tissue. This is seen mainly in case of dicots. The outermost region of the root becomes very hard and corky. Now, I am sure you all would have seen certain big trees, some of the roots come out of the soil. We call such root as buttress root. They are as hard as the stem. So, that is because of the presence of the cork region, which comes due to the secondary growth and formation of secondary tissue. But the roots which is coming out of these roots from here as a side, as a lateral root, these lateral root grow from the pericycle region. So, what is a pericycle region? So, let us understand again from the cross section of a root. So, this is our cross section of the root. We have already understood that the outermost region is called as the epiblemma. Below epiblemma, say this is one layer of the cells. I am not drawing all the cells here, I am just showing you. This region from here till here is called as cortex. Inside this, you have pericycle. You can define pericycle as the layer which is around the endodermis. So, endodermal region comes within. So, this is pericycle. Inside this you have endodermis. So, the next region here we can define it as endodermis. Inside endodermis, you have vascular bundle. Always remember, phloem is outside, and then comes xylem. Xylem is inside. This is called as pith, and so on. So, this is the region we are looking for. So, pericycle, which is present out of endodermis and inside cortex, gives rise to lateral root. I hope you have understood today's lecture. Just summarizing the entire topic, we have seen root, understood its function. We have seen few types of roots. We have understood the structure of roots. So, now that we have understood, we must do certain homework questions. Homeworks help us reinforce all the concepts. So, it is very important that we do homeworks meticulously. There should be no loopholes left. While doing homework, if you are coming across any doubt, that will be clarified in the online session. So, the first question, adventitious roots are lateral roots, tap roots, roots formed from radicle, roots formed from other parts but not from radicle. Question 2, plant part concerned in absorption of water and mineral is stem, root, leaf, flower. Question 3, behind which part of the root hairs are present? Matured region, root cap region, region of elongation, region of meristematic activity. Question number 4, lateral roots arise from root cap region, region of elongation, root hair region, matured region. Question 5, positive geotropism is exhibited by option A, stem, 2, roots, 3, leaves, 4, flower. Sixth question, root system with a stout, strong, centrally placed taproot is found in 1, dicot, 2, monocot, 3, bryophyte, 4, thallophyte. Question 7, short-lived primary roots is found in 1, dicot, 2, monocot, 3, gymnosperm, 3 angiosperm, 4 gymnosperm. Question number 8, find out wrong statement. 1, aerial part of the plant forms the shoot system. 2, underground part of the plant forms the root system. 3, root shows negative geotropism. 4, stem shows positive phototropism. Question 9, correct statement among the following is adventitious roots arise from radicle. 2, normal roots arise from base of the stem. 3, primary root in dicots is short-lived. 4, in monocots, primary root is short-lived. Question number 10, find out the correct character of root. 1, root is differentiated into nodes and internodes. 2, root is negatively geotropic. 3, tip of root carries terminal bud. 4, root is derived from radicle. Question 11 is a match the following students. So, list 1 carries region of meristematic activity, region of elongation, root hair region and matured region. List 2 has origin of lateral roots, 2 water and mineral absorption, 3 salt absorption, 4 storage, 5 cell divide repeatedly. So, options to the correct match we have to find out. I hope you all do it well. All the best students. You should complete your homework and submit.